So waite, to skip you lead, to skip you like way. When we're talking about poetry, it might be a good idea to define what makes poetry different, how it's different from ordinary language, which we call prose. And there are a lot of ways in which poetry is different. It tends to use more figurative language. Um, in recent centuries, at least since the Middle Ages, up until maybe a little over a century ago, it was expected to incorporate rhyme. But what is and has been the real decisive difference between poetry and prose is poetry is written in meter. And meter is patterned language. In modern poetry, meter is the pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables. When we say stressed syllables, we mean syllables that receive more emphasis. For instance, if we look at the sentence, I want to read that book, and that's how we would say it in a normal speaking voice. If we really kind of emphasize the stresses, I want to read that book, we wouldn't say it that way, even in a poem. But when we do it that way, you can hear the stresses. I want to read that book. I want to read that book. And a normal speaking voice, once you're looking for it, you can hear the emphasis. So modern poetry, we look at certain patterns of stressed and unstressed syllables. Um, for purposes of describing poetry, we organize those patterns into units or measures of 2 to 3 syllables called feet. And this word feet, as with the other terminology we use to describe poetry, goes back to the ancient Greeks. Um, the measures of a poetic line are called feet, 2 to 3 syllables. And those different feet had names, which again come from the ancient Greeks. I am, it's pronounced like I am. The B is generally silent, unless we're making an adjective out of it, as we'll see. Is in a I am, you have an unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable. The unstressed comes first, and then the stressed. Like if we go back to that sentence, I want to read that book, we've got 3 I ams. I want, unstressed followed by stressed, to read that book.